Good morning, everyone. Alrighty, first and foremost, the minutes from last meeting, from August 12th. Did everybody get a chance to read them?
September 8th.
Is there a motion for approval of last meeting?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting.
Second.
Alrighty, can we get a count?
That was Mr. Horian and Mr. Lilly.
Mm-hmm.
Here.
Rick Delange,
Here.
Chuck Horian,
Here?
James Lilly,
Here.
Roseanne Tortino,
Tornator here. Torta. You can call me Torture. It's okay.
Here.
Tornado.
Thank you, Joanne. Now for did you record the motion for the meetings?
He did.
Alrighty? All set? Alrighty, so we have a quasi-judicial hearing, and as a result, first of all, we want to ask if there's any ex parte communication by any member.
No.
Okay, I did go to the site, and I did talk to some of the members that are on the in the meeting. So I want to make sure that's clear on the record that I did speak with them.
That's good. And Chair, if I may just explain real quick about a quasi-judicial hearing. And for those in the audience, a quasi-judicial hearing is less formal than a trial, but there still are rules of procedure that we must follow. You'll be able to submit evidence and testimony, and anyone who speaks must be sworn in. So Chair, if I may swear everyone in.
Yes.
So anyone who plans on speaking for any of the items on the agenda, please raise your right hand, including staff. Thank you, Gwen. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in these proceedings?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You've been sworn in. Chair?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so the staff presentation, Gwen. Before we start, I understand you had 15 years of service last month, or?
I had 18.
Oh,
sir.
18 years. That's very good. Congratulations. Just wanted to recognize you for that.
Bye. Thank you so much. Absolutely. It has felt like it has gone by in a flash.
Yeah.
Good morning, Chairman Delange, board members, Gwen Herstein, city planner for the city of Daytona Beach Shores. And I didn't pull up my slides.
Make sure your phone is too.
This is a special exception consideration for temporary parking for 2 adjacent vacant lots on the south end of town, the 3600 block, just south of Dahlia Avenue. The owner applicant is SA 2011 LLC. Rob Merrill, attorney with Cobb and Cole, is the presenter and applicant for the project. The properties together total almost half an acre, and they are of two different zoning categories. One is GC2, a retail service commercial district, and that's the furthest east of the two properties. The further west is an RSF2, which is urban single-family residential detached district. Both of those zoning categories are available for this special exception for temporary parking, however. Future land use for the east parcel, retail service commercial, west parcel is low density residential. And as I said, both parcels are vacant currently and are overgrown with nuisance vegetation. Applicant submitted the first special exception application for this project on May 2nd, 2024, and that was after receiving approval for a site plan for the Live condominium. They received approval for that site plan January 23rd of 2024, and this project, this temporary project for parking is, for construction parking to support that, building that condominium. Site location, as you can see, Green Star is where we are right now. Red Star is approximately 1.8 miles south of the Shores Community Center where we are today. It's about a 5-minute drive south. And it is, if you're in the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, about a 35 to 40-minute walk. This is an aerial view of the site where it says special exception site in the middle. That's the, those are the two vacant lots. You can see them sort of bifurcated with a navy blue line. And you can see the white box off to the right is the project or the property that will be the future site of the condominium, and so it will be supporting the building of the construction project at that site. Different properties around it. You've got a timeshare across the street, directly east of this property, the special exception property, Atlantic Terrace. You've got two single-family residences on the west side and an oceanside condominium, which I believe has between 30 to 40 units. And I think there are residents of that property here today, so I think they could tell you more. That property directly to the west is in Port Orange. One of the single-family residences on the west side of this property is in the county, as opposed to Daytona Beach Shores, and all the rest of the properties around it are Daytona Beach Shores properties. Of the two sites, predominantly for construction parking and the trailer, will be the east of the two properties used for the parking, used for the trailer. The west of the two lots is predominantly going to be graded and used for water retention, which is especially important considering the residential surrounding that west property. These are street views currently. This was last week, taken on the 7th in the rain. And you can see, if you look at the picture to the top left, a lot of that is Brazilian pepper. There are some vines as well on the property. They did have to clear it through code enforcement action about 1.5 years ago. They did a good job of pushing back the vegetation and the debris, cleaning up debris that was on the property, but it's still filled with a lot of Brazilian peppers. The bottom right picture is the view from Dahlia and Cardinal Boulevard. This is the proposed site plan. Did not come out, it's a little bit blurry, I apologize for that, but I can direct you pretty clearly around the lot. The dotted black line, rectangular, is basically the perimeter of the two lots together. The red line in the middle separates the east property on top from the west property on the bottom, toward the bottom. The red rectangle is the proposed site for the construction office, the trailer, or construction office trailer. And the part that is in like a peachy orange is the parking, the way that they propose to lay out the parking. They're not going to give it individual parking spaces, but that's the area that they choose to, or plan to put riprap down for, filings down for parking. The green, the little green rectangle that's vertical is the entrance, sorry about that, is the entrance, and that's an entrance against Dahlia Avenue, so it won't be adding any congestion on either South Atlantic or Cardinal Boulevard. And as you can see, like we just talked about, there's not much other than retention, water retention, below the red line dividing the two properties. So not much activity taking place on the west of the two properties. The criteria and summary, the summary criteria. Of all of the criteria, there were 20, 18 have been met. The 2 that weren't met already on the plans, between the plans and the application, will be met through 4 conditions. If those requested conditions are applied to this approval, if it is recommended for approval, then the 4 conditions will take care of those 2 items that aren't completely met. They're partially met, but not completely met. And it may be more of a matter of clarification than doing something differently from the way they propose. Basically, there were a lot of references on plans to things that needed to be changed, and most of those references were pulled out appropriately, but there are still some in different places. Rather than holding them up for an additional month, if those conditions are approved, they will satisfy tying up all of those items that need to be clarified and or just basically clarified more than anything else, and tying up any inconsistencies. Not one I plan to go through at length with you, but it's here as a resource if we need it. The 4 conditions are listed on the left column. They were in your packet as well. The conditions are straightforward. They deal with making sure that the sand fencing that they're going to put in place is according to city code. The making sure that everything that they do place on the property is removed when they're done using the property. That needed to be clarified a little bit. They did address removal, but they gave a list and it was an incomplete list as far as the city's concerned. So this just tidies that up. Signage, they did not propose to use any signage, and in our experience, they will decide that they're going to want some signage at some point along the way, and we just want to make sure that they're aware that that will have to be approved through the city's signage codes through Chapter 6, and according to Chapter 6. And the last of the conditions referred to, initially they contemplated using this property for, in addition to parking, and also for the construction trailer office, they contemplated using it for staging of building materials and storage, outdoor storage. And that's not something that can be covered by this special exception. It's not allowed, and so they clarified, or they did change the application to reflect that. But then there are still a couple of places in the plans that it shows and references staging and storage. And so this just makes sure that that is tidied up and clarified that that's not allowed and will not be allowed even if the special exception approval recommendation is made and if it's approved by the City Commission. Public notice requirements were met for the project completely. You do have it looked like 3 pages of your notebook came out completely black, and I believe those were the pictures. I did personally see that they noticed the properties properly and by the dates that were required, and I did look over all of the other public due notice requirements, and I see that they have been met. The staff review we've discussed, and it has been fully reviewed. City Commission approval is required for this specific special exception, which is for temporary parking. So today we'd be asking for, or the applicant is asking for a recommendation to the City Commission for approval of the project, and then it will go to City Commission. If approved, it would go to City Commission on October 22nd. But we are requesting rather, that your recommendation, should you choose to make that in the affirmative, that it include those 4 conditions. You can see the conditions again as identified on page 9 of your planning analysis. It was also page 68 of the Planning and Zoning Board meeting memorandum.
Any question? I do. So, in looking at this, I recall the Max Beach Resort that's at the northern edge of our property, of our city. They kind of did the same thing. They had parking across with their construction trailer, and then they finished the building, and then they converted it into a parking lot. So they're basically going to do the same thing as they did with Max, the same strategy.
My understanding is that it's different. They approved it also for the possibility of it being permanent. They made permanent improvements. They asphalted instead of using the riprap or the filings.
This is Max.
Max that we're
Yeah.
talking about. They made some different approvals, or they took additional steps beyond what has been contemplated by this property owner for it to be a permanent, possibly a permanent site, which they have continued to use. In this instance, that's not an opportunity for this applicant because primarily, and maybe for other reasons too, but primarily because of that, the west parcel is zoned for residential. It's not zoned for, to be turned into a permanent parking area.
So, having said that, that section in the western area, it's going to be a retention pond, is my understanding, correct? And it's going to have 2,000 square feet of potential water retention in there? Is that correct?
It very much functions in that way right now. If you can see the bottom right picture, you're looking at the west side of the property. There already is slope to it. It functions very much in that way right now, but they're going to specifically grade it to purposefully function in that way and to make sure that their water, any water runoff from disturbed areas stays on the site.
What I read, it was that not only graded, but they were going to be seeded to make sure that,
Once they've removed all of their items from the property, then the plan is to seed at that point, is my
And-
understanding. And then is when the 24 palms will be added again to the perimeter.
It'll still be a retention pond.
It will still be, it'll be graded, it'll be sodded, it'll still have
inundation.
slope, the way it does now,
Yeah.
is my understanding, yes.
Maybe it'll be beneficial for everyone to hear the erosion and sediment control notes that was on there, because there's a list of 14 of them, and if you don't mind, saying it, so it'll be on record, because I think the erosion and sediment control notes are very specific on what we require, like the fencing and the whatchamacallit, the special sand barrier, a few notes about making sure Dahlia and South Atlantic is clean and of any debris or sand. And I think those are very specific notion that maybe should be read out loud so everybody would understand what it is entitled. If you don't mind?
No, Chairman, are you speaking of a particular page that was included in the packet, or are you speaking of comments? The comments
Page
that were made?
32 of 141, and there's the erosion and sediment control notes, and it starts land, it's very small, by the way. Land disturbing activities shall not commence until approval to do so has been received by governing authorities. And then number 2, the site contractor shall strictly adhere to the stormwater pollution prevention plan. And that is a very specific 14 notions, and I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention.
I appreciate it, and I'm hoping that because we have many representatives for the project here today, I'm hoping, because mine is not as clear,
Okay.
that they might be able to read that into the record for you. Hopefully, they have a more clear copy. We do have a paper copy. If we need to pull out the plans and read from those, we absolutely can, but I'm hoping that you have, but maybe we need to grab those.
Yeah, we should.
Okay, all right. Will you excuse me for a moment while I do that?
Sure, I'll be more than happy to.
Mr. Chair. Hi, Stuart Cruz for the record, Community Service Director. I just wanted to point out two things. The first is that the retention pond that was in conversation just a minute ago, it's not a wet retention pond, it's a dry retention pond. So there should not be any water in there if that's what anyone's concerned about. And the entire site would be brought back to its previous conditions or better. That's the requirement that we have in our city's code. And with regards to some of the conditions that were noted, some of those conditions are in our code. We're just adding them as additional backup, if you will. But whenever the site does go through the site plan approval process for approval, those conditions would be there. They have to be met. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then the last thing is with regards to the max, this is totally different. The max property and development for the parking, and then later on for the sales office that's there today, those are totally different zoning districts as well. So those conditions don't apply to this case.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you asked the question, because one of my other questions, Stuart, was it says throughout the paperwork that it's going to be inspected to make sure that they comply on a weekly basis, make sure that when they put up the 6-foot fencing, it's 6 foot, and when they put the sediment capturing devices, that it's going to be there. Who's going to be doing those inspections?
So we'll leave it up to Rob Merrill. Attorney Merrill looks like he's chomping at the bit. He's ready and happy and enthusiastic to answer all your questions. If he and his team cannot answer those questions, then staff will be able to take a shot at those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I didn't mean to jump ahead, but I had some questions concerning the inspection of the place.
May I make a practical suggestion to answer your question? So,
Sure.
Rob Merrill for the record with Cobb Cole. Stuart, if you can, our civil engineer didn't have internet since the storm, so he can't pull the plans up, but you have, I believe, the link. If you pull up Roger's plans, you can blow up your 14. We can't read them because it's too small, and I can't read them on my phone either.
Wait a minute, I'm older than you and I can read them.
I think if Stuart can blow it up on the computer, he can probably read those.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about? Or on the plans?
A set of plans too, so there's no reason.
Roger, you want to help?
I think it's very specific, and I think it answers a lot of people's question about what's going to be there. That's why I want it to be on record.
I understand, absolutely. And if I spoke at any point saying retention pond as opposed to retention area, that was a misspeak on my part. So I apologize for misdirecting.
We've got them, Glenn.
Who's the other individual?
Want to read them?
So
Read
Gwen,
them if you'd like.
any other questions for Gwen, so we can get the applicant and presentation going? Any other questions? Yes?
Maybe. Is there a time frame as far as when this is going to be finished and and do you have?
Thank you for asking. Yes, the timeframe, we did ask them to specify the timeframe from approval, should city commission grant it. It would be 3 years from approval. And that's to completely, while they have site plan approval for the condominium, they haven't submitted permit applications yet, so they're still at that point. So 3 years considering that. It's not going to start immediately, the project anyway. The construction of the condominium won't start immediately because they still have to go through that process. So the 3 years is not an excessive time frame considering that.
Thank you.
Did you mean when it is going to start clearing, or when the whole project
Whole
is?
project finished, so that everyone here knows
This
how
pr-
long they have to live with this.
This particular special exception would have a 3-year life.
So what happens after the 3 years?
Depending on the circumstances, they could come in and request additional time. If necessary, that's not guaranteed. They wouldn't have to be granted that time.
All righty. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have one. We could approve or disapprove based on the time frame that is being allowed. Am I correct, Mr.
He had to take a call.
Oh, okay.
You mean today's recommendation for approval?
Yes.
It's in,
Time frame?
That's, yeah,
It's
my
in the back.
understanding, I think.
Thank you. Just wanted to say it out loud.
no problem. Any other questions? If we could move on then for the applicant presentation? And state your name and position,
Absolutely, thank
and
you.
you have been sworn in.
Good morning. I didn't get sworn in because I don't intend to testify. I'm an attorney, so I'm going to make a couple of legal points and then answer any questions for my team. Rob Merrill, for the record, with the Cobb Cole Law Firm. I'm at 1 Daytona Boulevard here in Daytona Beach. You know, Gwen and Stuart are some of the best in the business at this. You guys are very fortunate. So she's been very thorough both in her written and verbal presentation. You know, she literally checks boxes, and I love the way that she does that for you guys. And, you know, this case is a special exception, so something a little different than the rezonings that you guys, or site plans. They're all sort of in different legal categories. The special exception is basically something that someone's presumptively entitled to do on a piece of property. So it's not a permitted use, but if you check boxes, if you do the things that are listed in the code and you comply with all of those things, you're presumptively entitled to be able to build whatever you want to build. In this case, you see the parking and the construction trailer, which is temporary. So if you look through the criteria that Gwen both put in a report and went through today, all of them are checked, all of them are met, and they're very clear. So there's no additional evidence, or you know, as the attorney said, you know, there's no additional evidence needed beyond, in my opinion, what's in the package that you guys have received, and many of you, I think, have very thoroughly reviewed, I can tell. So with that, I think, you know, we're okay with the conditions, the 4 conditions. And in answer to your question, Roseanne, we're thinking it's about a 24-month build. So the 3 years was to give a little bit of, you know, wiggle room, which is important, I think. I think Jim Mack, who's here with me, and of course Roger Chakula, who you guys have already seen, has said that we're about a February start. We've got a couple things, including FWC permitting, and we're starting the seawall like this month. So things are happening. So this is going to be a present project, not something that's being kicked down the road. So I know we've got folks in the audience, I think, that are our neighbors that might be asking some questions. So to the extent we can answer questions, any of us on our team, for you guys now, we'll do that. And then I'd like to reserve time to try to answer others as well.
Very good.
I just asked that to make everybody feel better that it could be less than that.
Yeah, it should take about 24 months to construct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have some. Can you be more specific of what equipment? Because I want to make sure that people understand, I mean, we're not going to have a 30-foot crane in this parking lot that we're putting. Can you kind of be a little more specific on what kind of equipment is going to be in that parking?
I'll let Jim or Roger come up, but I can tell you that as Gwen discussed, we originally talked about having material staging on site, which I think some others have done on the west side of A1A in construction projects, but we've decided not at the city's suggestion, so that won't be happening.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Mack. I represent the developer. These will be mostly cars. These will be mostly workmen's cars. The cranes, any heavy machinery will be on the site itself during construction. We might have an electric truck that may spend the night there or something, but for the most part, it's just workmen's cars. They have to park somewhere.
And they have a trailer, correct? There's a trailer and then bathrooms there? Is that what?
Probably will not have that. We want to have provision to do that. As of this moment, we do not plan to put a trailer there right now, but it's still a possibility.
All right. So the cranes and the heavy equipment that makes all the noise and is going to stay on the construction on the east side of A1A?
That is correct.
All right. I wanted to make sure that that was clear.
That is correct. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions or concerns? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we move on and we call for public input in favor of the project. No public input in favor of the,
It's public comment.
okay, well, this is what you get. Okay, so now, public input for opposition of this project. Is there anybody that would like to come and speak? And if you please come up, state your name, address, and just for the information, it's a 3-minute limitation per person. So thank you. State your name, address.
Gabriel, Dylan Bowman, 3617 Cardinal Boulevard,
Spell your last name,
Shores, Dillon hyphen, B as in boy, BOWMAN.
We'll switch it so we have the time.
And Chair, if I may just clarify, the reason we ask for your name and address is for the record in case we go to a proceeding afterwards, because of 7051 proceeding. Anyone who speaks is sent notice. So that's why we're asking for this personal information. So thank you.
You're welcome. For the record, I don't consider myself for or against. I think it's probably worth having a category of more questions, has more questions about the project. I'm not necessarily for or against, but, so how does this process work? Who makes the decision? Is the 5 of you? How does this, can you explain that to us over here?
We make a recommendation,
Wait,
the city council does that.
If you want to go ahead and explain it, that's our lawyer. This is a first reading. And
Sure.
and it's the Planning and Zoning Board recommendation to the city commission. And the city commission then approves it
So the 5 of you make a recommendation.
to the city commission.
Okay, great. I think that's worth knowing for us. And how many people are on the city commission? Approximately.
7?
5.
So 5 making a recommendation to 5 completely separate people.
Yes.
Okay. And just for a couple thoughts, I am in the property, obviously, just north of this, the 2 lots on the west side. I guess one thing I want to bring to everybody's attention is, you have a lot of condos, certainly on the east, on the Atlantic Ocean side. Certainly, they have not all been built with having to do this. It sounds like you referenced one that was in the past. So if you guys have any experience with how that went, it sounds like they're still continuing to use that after the construction of the property. Has it been a good experience, a bad experience? Is it just going to be overtaken by growth again in 3 years? And is it just a lack of imagination that we can't find 6 parking spots on the Live condominium site? They're able to find everything else, but we need half a dozen spots. I mean, they must really, it seems like they really want this if they're going to all this effort to get half a dozen spots. They can't even really use the western side. So just, this is all food for thought. It seems like there's more at stake here if they only need it for a handful of trucks and cars. Just my analytical observation of that. If they want to speak more to that, they're more than welcome to. The other thing I'd like to bring to everybody's attention, I guess I only have 45 seconds here, but we have the newly finished, really nice Dahlia Avenue Park. This is the main thoroughfare that everybody on the west side from Cardinal Boulevard uses to get there. So they're making it seem like, oh, we're getting all this traffic off A1A and Cardinal. It's like, well, yes, but we're putting it all for 2 to 3 years where everybody goes from the west side of Cardinal up Dahlia Avenue to the new park. And so we're adding a ton more of traffic onto this short little avenue that a lot of people walk on. A lot of people use as their beach access who aren't on the beach side, who aren't on the A1A side. And I guess I'm out of time, but I will say, if anybody can speak to us as a group, if we were really passionate about stopping this, and I'm not saying we are, what would our next steps be? Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your,
Chair?
yes.
If I may just clarify, and with all due respect, this is public comment. This is not public question and answer. So respectfully, we can't demand the board to answer questions, especially on the spot.
I apologize.
No, that's fine, and that's, we're glad that you asked these questions, but they probably would be better addressed to staff. And that way you could get well-reasoned, researched responses, and you can get more time to dedicate to you individually, as opposed to making board members answer questions on the spot. So I just want to make that clarification, but they are certainly welcome to answer questions if they like.
Thank you.
I'm hearing which staff from a lot of people.
The two folks raising their hands, I'm sure they'd be happy to give you the business cards after the meeting.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other individual like to come and talk?
Hey, good morning. Gary Lipinski. We actually have two properties, 3614 Cardinal Boulevard. That's right across the street. And we also have a condominium within Oceanside Condos, and which I'm a board member as well. I just want to state for the record that it's LUP.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. For the record that I don't think any of us that are in attendance today were notified, by the way. We received no notification. There may have been efforts made, but none of us received it. We got it from one of the neighbors that received notification. So, and we passed it around amongst ourselves, so I wanted to make that comment because it sounded like everybody was notified and we certainly didn't receive anything. And I'm sorry, my voice is a little gone today from the weekend. We had as you guys are familiar with the community with Daytona Beach Shores, as you're pretty much the south side of Dunlawton, heading towards Wilbur by the Sea, especially, and certainly going down into Ponce Inlet, it becomes more and more residential as compared to the north side of Dunlawton. So, you know, this particular area is a residential community. I mean, we're all neighbors. We have very little commercial activity there, and this is definitely a change to that, right? I want to echo something that Gabriel said earlier, that, you know, I'm not aware of any other condominiums in the area that have had to do this for 6 parking spots. It seems like a small, I mean, they have a big lot, they're developing the condo. I can't believe they can't find 6 parking spots on that big area. I personally have had, another concern is, you know, drainage. This area has been flooding for years. Matter of fact, our condo parking lot has been completely undermined by the water problems coming down Dahlia now. I personally have called the city, Daytona Beach Shores, Port Orange. I got reference to go to the county. I've had an open ticket with the county to repair the drainage issues for probably over a year. They've come out and made some attempts, but it has done nothing. We still have, you know, knee-deep water after a normal afternoon thunderstorm. So that's a big concern for me. So whatever happens, that is a priority. You know, I'm of course concerned about the noise, the traffic. I have young girls. We traverse that area back and forth to the beach, and you know, I'll just state that I'd prefer not to have them traverse through construction zone and trailers and stuff. I'm sure you can understand. They did share that the exception was temporary, but 3 years sounds like an awful long time to me. So, you know, I'm trying to, I didn't really come very prepared, but, you know, I wanted to state those things. And I too would like to understand it a little bit better, the timeline. My experience with these things is, you know, it starts out to say 3 years, it might, and then they ask for another exception, and, you know, because they got the last one, and the next thing you know, we'll have another condo building being built there, so I'm concerned about that. So I too would like to be involved and notified for, you know, any other meetings where they're sharing details.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other individual would like to come and make the presentation? If you can come up, state your name and address, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Chris Evans, not to be confused with Captain America. I thought we'd get a laugh at least from somebody. I reside at 3620 Cardinal Boulevard. Mr. Lipinski and others, I just want to reiterate what has already been stated, the concerns about it's a neighborhood. It's a quiet neighborhood. We live there because it's a neighborhood. This is obviously going to be a significant change. I find the term of art of nuisance vegetation an interesting term. It's, you know, that vegetation is nuisance likely because it hasn't been maintained. So I will also agree with, and ma'am, I'm sorry, didn't get your name, that that site does store water. It's like a basin. If you look at it, there's a basin. So right now, it's not contributing to what is a significant flooding area, even at a minimal rain. And even though there's going to be a planned, like it's a detention or retention, I'm not sure if it's retention or detention. However, the amount of any additional runoff from that property will just add to an already bad flooding situation. So I'm opposed to this action. We would like our neighborhood to remain a neighborhood, like Mr. Lipinski mentioned, having, you know, construction vehicles, people we don't know, additional traffic on Dahlia is not going to be helpful, and honestly, it's not welcome. 3 years is a long time, I would agree with that. Even 2 years is a long time, and it's an awful lot of effort to go through to find a place to put 6 trucks. I've been around, I'm a civil engineer in my career, I've been around these kind of projects a long time, and they creep. There's job creep. It's not intended to be a lay-down yard, but gee whiz, we need room for this, so let's go lay it over on that. You know, those things happen. If someone's not watching it or paying attention to it, it can really get out of hand really quick. The fabric that gets put around that fence, it's a dynamic atmosphere. It's 50 yards from the ocean. It's going to get tore up. There's going to be sand blowing everywhere. It's probably going to become a mess. Maintenance and housekeeping at construction sites is difficult. I know that, and I can appreciate the challenge of that. This is not going to be a sanitary, clean, easy process where we're just going to put some parking spots and it'll be, and 2 years later it'll go away. This is going to be a nuisance. And it's a nuisance that we honestly don't want. We don't need it. I moved there because it was quiet. I enjoy it because it's quiet. I enjoy being able to walk up Dahlia Avenue and go to the beach in the morning, to the beach park, without having to worry about trucks coming through. So I, again, appreciate the opportunity to speak. Am concerned about the stormwater. And it's just to state, for the record, my opposition to this rezoning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Any other member in the audience who would like to come and speak? All righty.
Got one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, if you can state your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is, excuse me, I'm nervous. Karen Yakchak, I live at 3620 Cardinal Boulevard. My concern is.
Can we spell her name? I'm sorry. I could
Your
not
name,
hear.
can you spell your last name, please?
Oh, YAFCH.
Thank you.
My train of thought just went out of my head.
You're fine.
Like everybody else, why, no, it's not a W, it's a Y.
I'm sorry.
Some time back.
Again, I just lost it.
Take your time.
God, this is embarrassing.
Not at all.
It was really important. Oh, man.
Sorry.
It's okay, Carrie.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Start over.
Yes.
I forgot.
No problem.
Sorry.
That's okay. If it comes up, let us know. You'll have another opportunity.
Do it how I
Resolve.
I don't know, I just, it went out of my head.
No problem.
I had to state my name and poof. And it was important.
Thank you. Yes.
I remembered my name.
All right, so the applicant, do they have any rebuttal desired?
Okay, I thought you did.
Sorry.
Rob Merrill again for the record. I'm going to ask Roger Stukula to get up and talk a little bit about drainage. I think that's a concern, so I'll let him do that. I'm going to try to sort of go through the points that were made, and I appreciate the input from the neighbors. I fully expected that folks that live around here would want to hear about what's going on. From a process statement first, the way this normally, and I'll let the attorneys say how it works. This is a rebuttal that we give you. Sometimes I've been doing this for a long time. Everybody wants to come back and forth and do this several times. I want to make sure for the record that this is the last thing to be said, and then you guys get to do your thing, right? Okay, I'm seeing a nodding of a head. So the first thing I'll say is I like the Dahlia Avenue Park. I go there myself frequently. I think it's a great place. I've got, my paralegal lives right around the corner, walking distance, so literally I know this area. So I appreciate what they're saying about the idea with traffic and whether it'll be interfering with their normal daily lives, including the Dahlia Park. I will say that when you look at your materials, one of the reasons why I didn't have to say much is it's all in there. So there's a very minimal traffic that's going to come from this use. If you think about it intuitively, you've got people that are going to park there and they're going to work in the condo and then they're going to leave. The front of this property is owned commercial. I mean, a convenience store, you know, a Mad Dog surf shop could move over there. People could be coming and going all day long on this piece of property if we build something there now. That's not what's happening. Somebody are going to come, park the cars, they're going to go work all day, and then they're going to leave. That's the activity that's going to be happening. End of story. It's very simple. So I think the traffic concerns are minimal compared to what could be there. Now, when you think about the back half of the property, we could put housing there as well. People who live there come and go usually more than somebody who's just parking in the morning and leaving in the afternoon. So I think what you're going to see here for 3 years is way less than what could be there. Now, to be clear though, ultimately something could very well be built there in the future once. So the Max built a parking lot there. That's not the intent here. As Gwen explained, this is a temporary parking area. Afterwards, something else could be built there. So just to be clear, that's sort of the lay of the land, if you will, in terms of entitlements right now. Someone had asked about notification, whether the proper notification was given. I think Gwen's packet has all of my paralegal who lives right around the corner actually is the one who posted the property and did all the mailings and such. So we have certified mailings and all of that is in the record. So if you guys have any particular person who didn't get it, I'd like to see about that, but I think we've done that and attested to it. With that, I think what I'll do is, one last thing I'll say is the nuisance vegetation comment. I mean, if you guys have lived in Florida, you understand about Brazilian peppers. I mean, it's almost impossible to get the things out of here. They are absolutely considered a nuisance, I think, by your code and by anybody who's been around them. So that's pretty much what's back there. So that needs to be taken out, and it's hard to do. So the drainage question, I think, is probably the most important. So I'll let Roger Tricula get up and explain what he's planning to do.
Mr. Chairman, Roger Stricola, 265 Kenilworth Avenue, Ormond Beach. I'm the engineer of record. I am a professional engineer. I'm also a professional erosion sediment control within the entire United States, and also certified and qualified by FDEP. So, and I'm very familiar with this. As Mr. Merrill indicated, the front portion of the property is for the temporary trailer and temporary construction parking. There are 17 spaces, or not 6 spaces. Staff wanted us to maximize as many spaces on this parcel as possible, just so we don't have any vehicles parking on the right-of-way. There's notes on the drawing that prohibit any parking on the right-of-way at all. So that's taken care of. The property is totally enclosed by a sand fence and erosion or sediment fence for erosion sediment control. I'm using as much of the front easterly portion of the property as possible and leaving the rest in the back to the west just graded and sodded. Per your code, you only require 900 cubic feet of retention storage. I'm providing 2,100 cubic feet. You know, this part of the old sand dune system is highly permeable. Water percolates through there very fast. So any runoff that occurs into the pond is going to percolate in there quickly. It's going to improve any drainage conditions that are out there now. Because like I said, this pond is oversized. There's a large, wide lawn area to capture that runoff, infiltrate before it even gets to the pond. So I'm trying to improve what's out there now. I'm very sensitive to flooding because we know a hurricane came through and we had flooding where I live. So you know, I over-designed what code requires. And this will be inspected. So when the contractor puts a sediment fence up and all the erosion sediment control measures, I have to go out there and look at it and make sure the contractor follows his, my specifications. There are explicit notes on the drawings for the contractor to follow. He has to apply for FDEP NPDES notice of intent permit for stormwater, and that registers them with the state to go ahead, and they have to follow the criteria on my drawings and also the state criteria. So there's a lot of levels in addition to your staff that are looking. So if any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm glad you verified the number of parking spaces. A question that I had concerning the construction side of the condo, they're all a lot of one-story buildings. So I would imagine that the deconstruction of those buildings would take up a lot of space, or you need more opportunity for your heavy equipment to be on that side.
Right. And then the building footprint of the garage, I mean, there's no place to park on that side, you know? And, you know, you don't want vehicles parking out on the right of way. The county, you know, they'll have the sheriff out there and, you know, enforcement. So we're trying to make this as safe as possible. And as Mr. Merrill had stated, you know, you're gonna have workers coming there in the morning to work, and then they work, and they leave, and they go home, and it's, you know, the gates are shut.
Any questions?
Roger, question.
Yes, Mr. Lilly.
We haven't said that for a long time.
I know we haven't.
What's the base of this parking area going to be made of? Is this going to be sand, dirt, mill,
We
mulch?
gave them, I gave them the option. They can use millings or shell. It's just whatever is available. And then when the work is complete, that'll be removed, the area will be restored, and it'll be grassed. You know, the palm trees will be put in around the perimeter.
My two concerns is when I did construction, people will show up for work in the morning and do a little coffee klatch in the parking lot for 15 minutes to half an hour. Same thing going home. A lot of traffic going in and out, a lot of dirt coming up. I didn't hear anybody say anything about watering that parking lot down so the dust will not accumulate with the neighborhood.
That's actually in my specifications.
I missed it.
Yeah. It's
One of those fine print things.
Yeah, it's in there. And then also, we put in a construction entrance, which is very coarse, large
Yeah.
aggregate stone to capture the fines. So after a period of time, when vehicles track over that, it gets compacted, so the contractors go back there, he has to agitate it to clear those fines out there and keep it clean. There's notes on a drawing for the contractor to keep Delia clean. You know, if it's not clean, I expect the city to receive a phone call immediately for the contractor to go out there and clean the street. And I have this occur on numerous construction projects that are adjacent to residential developments. And even when I'm out there and doing an inspection, I'll be on the contractor's back, so, you know, you get this thing cleaned.
So there'll be somebody there with a hose watering.
Or
things
they'll
down.
have a sand truck, you know, broom truck.
Water truck?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, sure.
Any other
I have
questions?
a question, but I think it's maybe for someone else, I don't know. Thank you. How many days a week will they be operating as far as building on the property? Will it be 7 days a week, or are they
Yes,
going to be
so I
5 days a week?
I believe
don't
the
know
hours of
what to ask.
operation were 7 to 7, Monday through Saturday, and then Sunday
10 to 5.
10 to 5.
That's what's allowed by code.
Yeah.
Trying to get it done in
Yes,
24
right now,
months.
but I thought maybe they would.
Any other questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Righty. That's why I requested a copy, or at least notification of the 14 points, because this is very detailed, and I appreciate Gwen stating every single spot on this. My only concern is that this is nice on paper, but we need to make sure that we inspect it and make sure that the process is being done step by step, like it's indicated, and my approval really depicts on following the proper procedure in the paper. Go ahead, Stuart.
Mr. Chair, board members, Stuart Cruz, Community Services Director again. I just wanted to add on to your concern about the inspections. The City of Daytona Beach Shores Building Department has a standard operating procedure for inspections for sites that are under construction and for sites that are subject to a stormwater management and erosion control plan. So there's actually 3 inspections that come along with that, and then as needed as well. So I just wanted to reassure you and the board that the building department, in addition to the contractor of record, and the engineer of record, will also be doing inspections.
That's my biggest concern. Thank you for clarification, Stuart. Yes, sir?
Yeah, I think our member of the public, I think she remembers what she wanted to say. So if you may entertain one more public comment?
Calling Karen, if you would like to come in.
My concern was, I'm old, you know. And I think he answered it as I was asking why he can't put his equipment on the site that's being built, because that's what they've done in the past, that I've been past and see their construction and they're doing a building, you know. Why can't he put his equipment on where they're gonna build the condo? But I think you answered that because there's not enough property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, having said that,
Chairman Deloche?
yes.
I apologize for interrupting. I just want to make sure that I made it clear that the staff report was submitted for the record. Just want to clarify.
Perfect. Thank you, Gwen. All righty, no further discussion among the board? All right, do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we, special exception, SDEX 142-4017, off-site construction, parking for LIV condominium, 2 adjacent vacant lots on Dahlia Avenue, Volusia County, parcel ID numbers 6302, 0509, 0010, and 6302, 0509, 0020 is approved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All righty.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clarify with the board member as to whether or not the conditions that staff is recommending is also incorporated in that recommendation.
Yes, the conditions of staff.
All righty. Can we have a roll call on that?
Yes, sir. Rick Delange,
Yes.
James Lilly,
No.
and Guy Sy.
Yes.
Chuck Horgan,
Yes.
Roseanne Ford.
Monitor, yes.
And that's a yes for,
Yes. Thank you.
thank you. All righty. All right, we'll go to the next action item.
That's it, and just for the public's knowledge, so that item passed. The next step is the city commission. So you'll have another opportunity to voice your concerns at the city commission. And keep your eye posted on the city's website. There's an agenda posted. So that's what I recommend as far as notice goes.
Thank you for the clarification. Then we go to the other action item, the regular site plan of the Lux condominium. And Gwen, all yours.
Morning again, Chairman Delange, and Planning and Zoning Board members. Gwen Herstein, City Planner, City of Daytona Beach Shores. This is now a regular site plan request for approval for the Lux condominium at 3159 South Atlantic Avenue. You'll notice some of the people have stayed in the room because there are a lot of overlapping applicants, party members, representatives, et cetera. This is, the location is 3159 South Atlantic Avenue. I have pictures for you in just a second. And I would like to make sure that the packet submitted was actually submitted into the record. The owner applicant is Michael Sockman. He's the manager of 3159 South Atlantic LLC. The applicant, James R. Mack. Property size is 0.69 of an acre, and it's got a A1A frontage of 101 feet. Zoning district is TRMF1, the hotel motel residential multifamily high density district with a high intensity use for future land use. and it's currently a vacant lot. What is being proposed is a new 7-story, 30-unit residential condominium. This is the site location. You can see again the green star where we are. The site is approximately just over half a mile south of us on A1A on the ocean side. It's a 2-minute drive, or again, if you're in the Mayor's Fitness Challenge, it is about a 14-minute walk. This is a closer view of the site. You can see what's right around it. It's got the St. Croix just north of it, the Hyatt Place just south of it, and then Edwin Peck, beautiful Edwin Peck Senior Park. Across the street is a beachwear shop. And you've got Surfside Plaza where Ocean's Luxury Realty is. Mike's Galley. Here's an aerial view of the same. This is not evident, well, it happens to also be evidence of public notice, but this is a street view of the property. You can see that this property did have significant erosion after Hurricane Nicole, and it has sandbags, the large sandbags on the property currently. They did sustain some damage in the recent hurricane, but they also protected the majority of the property and the neighboring properties, so that was good. You can see the Hyatt Place just to the south and St. Croix Condo just to the north of this property. This is taken from the sidewalk on South Atlantic Avenue. This is a proposed site plan. The light purple being the building footprint itself, and the aqua portion off to the left, which is the west, part of the parking deck. There is above ground parking and below. I've also demonstrated with the blue boxes where the setbacks met code. There are 2 pink bars along A1A. The top of those 2 is an entrance into the parking deck, and the bottom of those 2 is where you'd enter down the ramp into the parking garage, which you'd turn at that pink bar at the bottom, you'd turn into the parking garage through that. This is a proposed elevation from the northwest corner. Another one from the southwest corner. 6 floors of units is what we're looking at, and then the 7th floor being the first floor with office and amenities. And here's 2 views from the northeast corner and southeast corner. So this is from the beach side. Building height, maximum 65 feet is what was allowed on this irregular lot, and they are utilizing all 65 feet to the maximum. Parking, they were required 45 spaces, and they have achieved those. And the setbacks were all met. Overall, I would like to point out that this plan is consistent with the comprehensive plan for the city and also all land development code requirements, provided the 3 conditions that are being presented today are met. Here's an opportunity to see a somewhat blurry image of the landscape. Again, the proposed building, and showing that you have 5 feet, a 5-foot buffer of landscape on the north and south sides. And I have the summary analysis, which will tell you a little bit more. They were required to provide 17 trees. They proposed 42 trees. They were required a mix of 2 different species of tree, and they proposed 5. While that seems like an extra lot, they are actually utilizing those extra trees to account for the fact that they don't have trees and vegetation in the landscape plan. So there are 5 options outlined in the code, and they met at least one of those options by the mix and the types of trees and where they were placing the trees, and most importantly, the number. The plan is consistent with all landscaping-related land development code requirements. These are the 3 requested conditions. Again, a little bit different. The first one is, the second and third are related to each other somewhat, and they have to do with the city of Port Orange and confirmations of compatibility with the project, making sure that there will be enough water available to meet the fire, it says fire plow requirements, it should say fire flow requirements at project completion, basically to make sure that they have enough water to go through a sprinkler system to put out any fire that would happen. That's generally provided in a water supply analysis and also a letter from the city of Port Orange. Those have not been received, specifically the city of Port Orange. I have been in contact with the engineer there. He has been working with the engineer, Mr. Stracula, and they both have indicated that they're confident they can resolve what still has to be done, but they're not there yet. So rather than holding up the project, they know what they have to do, so we thought we could assign or request the conditions and let them seek their approval. Also, the condition number 3, the passing hydrant flow test, has yet to be submitted to the city of Daytona Beach Shores. 2 have been done, neither has been done that actually meet what the code requires, and so I do have a letter for them. 1 was done very recently. I do have a letter for them from the Fire Safety Support Services lieutenant, telling them why that letter could not, the second test that was done could not be approved either. So hopefully we can get past that, and they've indicated that they will do everything that they need to do. But back to the condition number 1, fairly straightforward. I have a diagram for you. Basically, if you look at the bottom left, this is just specifically about requested condition 1. The pink bar is where you would enter down the ramp and enter the below level parking garage. There are parking spots immediately around them. You see the 2 teal and then the 2 in the lavender facing north, and we're just requesting additional, we're requesting that they show us how they're going to make sure that any driver who comes down that ramp is affording safety to any pedestrians that would be accessing those cars, and also the vehicles themselves, because someone might be in the process of backing up, and so we're asking for a bit more detail on how they intend to do that. And they have indicated that they understand and that they will do so.
Can you indicate which one will be handicapped?
And this is actually just the western portion of that underground garage. They have met the handicap requirements. I believe there are 2 spaces on the lower deck and 1 on the upper deck, or vice versa, but it meets code no matter which way it was done. They did satisfy code regarding those. And those are protected, they're closer to the entrance, which is further east and not shown in this diagram. We can, if you wanted to see, there is the first, the open deck is here, and you can see that 1 parking spot, the handicapped, the symbol is upside down on the lower.
I got it.
Okay. I did want to.
Are the handicap, are the spaces in the garage going to be dedicated to the unit?
There are 45 spaces required and 45 being provided, so no additional spaces. So that leaves 1.5. Basically, code requires 1.5 spaces per unit, which means, I don't know, and you can ask the folks representing the property when they come up, but I believe probably 1 will be dedicated, and then there are 15 possibilities.
I was just thinking if they're dedicated spaces, like this parking space goes to that unit, why would you need handicap parking spaces?
It's required by fair housing.
Downstairs?
Yes, when it's constructed. It's required based on the number of spaces being offered in that area. The project is consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city. Public notice requirements were met. And the staff has has completed its requisite review. Staff is recommending approval as presented with the conditions identified in Exhibit G. Those are the 3 conditions we just spent a little bit of time talking about. We'd be happy to talk about in more detail if you would like.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Gwen?
Nope.
All right.
I like the approach.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you.
Me again.
Can you state your name?
Rob Merrill with the Cobb Cole Law Firm, 1 Daytona Boulevard. Thank you, Gwen. I'll start by saying again, we've got a team of folks here that can answer questions for you. Between Gwen and Stuart, they're so thorough that there's not a whole lot for me to say, which I'm sure you guys are happy about. She literally did it again, checked off all the boxes. This is not a rezoning, this is not a special exception, this is not a variance, this is a compliant project, entirely compliant with your land development code and with your comprehensive plan, as Gwen said a couple of times to you today, which is very important and relevant to your decision. You know, we're fine with the 3 conditions. I will say that Roger and I and Larry Robinson were talking about an idea that I think might help with that first one, which is when you're coming in that garage, if you've seen a lot of these big, the mirrors that have the globy, you know, kind of, I think that way you can see when you're coming in if anybody's pulling out the parking spot. So that's a good practical solution. But suffice to say, we will be complying with those 3 conditions. So I think we've checked off the boxes completely as it relates to the water or any other questions. So if you guys had them, I've got Roger, Larry, Jim Mack here. Anybody you want to ask questions, they're here for you. I think this is going to be a great project for the shore, so hopefully you guys will support us.
Any questions? I have one. So the public beach access area, it's adjacent to the property, correct? Gwen? And that's going to remain intact during the construction of the project? Is that going to be a barrier so individuals can walk that path into the beach without worrying about construction? That's my only concern.
That's a good question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, can you repeat the question?
Adjacent, just north of the property line, we have a public beach access for the public. And my concern is that going to be hindered in any way during the construction? Is there going to be a temporary fence that allows the residents to access the beach? Because I believe the city just built the stairs there, or ramp.
So generally during construction projects, it's the responsibility of the property owner of the construction site and the contractor to protect whatever assets are not theirs. You know, so if deemed necessary, I believe that something will be offered there, but we do not intend to close the public beach access or restrict it in any way unless there's a safety issue after it is completed, because at this point it's not completed. The ramp is there, the wooden dune walkover is there, but the sidewalk has not been reconstructed as yet.
Great. There was no mention of it in anywhere, and I'm aware of the situation, so I just wanted to bring it to the public.
For the record, Mr. Chair, and Jim Mack's nodding his head, we don't intend to affect the access with our construction.
Thank you. Thank you for answering. Any other questions or concerns? All righty. In that case, no further discussion. If we have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, the regular site plan, RSP 1202-4020, Lux Condominium, 3159 South Atlantic Avenue, exhibiting the 3 exceptions to be dealt with the city.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We can have roll call on them?
Yes, sir. Rick Delange,
Yes.
Chuck Horian,
Yes.
James Lilly,
Yes.
Roseanne Tornator,
Yes.
Guy Desai.
Yes.
All righty. Thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody, Sherry, that the next meeting is going to be November 7th, correct? So the next meeting is going to be November 7th. Everybody, if you can please let Sherry know that we can make it, because it's not a regular meeting date. I want to make sure we emphasize that. All right? If we're all done?
I designed this.
Wait. Have a-
A question for Gwen. On the north,
The materials are.
where all the condo oceans stop, and the homes start
We lost some traffic.
here. There's a house, new house being built. Right there, they have blocked off the access to the beach. Been going on for months.
As I understand it, Gwen Herstein, city planner, City of Daytona Beach Shores. As I understand it, Mr. Lilly, the project is called, owner's last name is Cannon, is nearing completion. They have had an MOT in place for some
What's
time.
an MOT?
It's a transportation, the way that you basically close traffic lanes in an acceptable way so as to be safe. They have had, they're nearing completion of the project. They've had a number of things that have been a little bit challenging in the area, but they're
That just
nearing completion.
totally goes against what Stuart just said about access to the beach.
We have been actively working on, and I believe just completed that beach approach, working very hard on it. That's a city beach approach between that property and St. Kitts condo.
Because he's got a fence all the way across it with a whole bunch of stuff on the walkway. You can't even use it.
I apologize, I have to step out. Can I hear what the conversation is about?
Why didn't you bring donuts?
Next meeting.
That's okay. Gwen's answered the question.
Yeah.
Thank you anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns? All right.
Good job.
Meeting adjourned.
Thank you. When does the 7th fall? The 6th?
Called Nancy, told her I couldn't make it. And she got